Okay, good morning. My name is Basilio Monteiro, and I'm a professor at St. John's University. And my area of specialization is in the field of international communication. And at the request of my colleague, Dr. Mina Aslama, I've been thinking about this whole idea of globalization of the curriculum. And there are so many thoughts, so many interactions, so many push and pull situations taking place around this particular topic. It looks like the universities now suddenly have this urgency about internationalizing their curriculum or globalizing their curriculum. And of course, we know these are internationalization of curriculum and globalization of curriculum. These are two different concepts. But anyway, they're being used kind of interchangeably. Internationalization, globalization. So I'm not going to parse the words at the moment, but I'll just take it as it is usually used or commonly understood in our common parlance. These are my personal thoughts that I've kind of over the many years, given my own field of specialization and study, and also my travel from around the different parts of the world, and myself coming originally from India, where I did most of my education, and then having had the opportunity of studying a little bit in Europe, and then higher education, my doctoral studies in the United States, and teaching in the last many years, so mostly in the United States, but also at the same time going back to teach in India as well, and occasionally teaching in Europe too. So I kind of draw upon this experience of intercontinental experience and trying to see what is this we're talking about when we talk about globalization of curriculum. And first of all, I think there is I will not say a problem, but there is this whole dilemma about how do we understand globalization. Personally, I tend to incline the definition or the explanation given by Anthony Giddens, where he highlights in the way he explains globalization, he highlights that one particular characteristic, that the globalization is a dialectical process. And I think it's very important for us to keep that in mind. That is, as much as the tendency sometimes is to look only one-way flow of information going, but also there is some kind of resistance, and this resistance, I think, using Anthony Giddens' terms, is dialectical. There is a dialectical process. And so in this dialectical process, what happens is that there has to be a recognition that something new has happened also. As a result of this change, something new is coming out, something new is being born, and something new is emerging. And what is that new that is emerging? Oftentimes, I think for us, it's very difficult to put our hands on it. But nonetheless, I would like to emphasize that the dialectical process forces us to examine on an ongoing basis, because this is an evolving situation all the time. After all, we're dealing with human beings, and human circumstances. So, having said that, kind of contextualizing my own notion of how I'm looking at globalization. So, now about curriculum, and almost every country today, probably with the exception of Finland or maybe Nordic countries or maybe Singapore, that almost all other countries are saying very, very concerned about what is happening to the education, and particularly they're concerned about for two reasons. One, globalization. Other one is the changing of economy. Economy is no longer industrial economy. We are living in a very different economy. And also the structure of economy. It's no longer just economy in one particular, confined to one particular country, but it's becoming a globalized economy. So, number one, we have the method of production has changed completely. That means there is no one particular thing that is being done right now in one particular place, but it's being the one item is being put together in so many different countries, and finally, it is sold as if like it is made in China or the United States. So anyway, so that is one element that kind of I like to keep in mind when we talk about globalization and education. Other thing about education is every country has its own interest in educating its citizens, and one dominant interest is that they develop a sense of I don't want sense of nationalism, but I don't want to use the word nationalism in a kind of way it is understood, fiery kind of nationalism, but they develop a sense of they belong to a nation, and this is so they are kind of they know, for example, in the United States we are Americans, and what does it mean to be American, and understanding the American context. So and this developing as a result of education, developing the sense so that we belong to America, we belong to the United States of America, and so that is one of the underlying, if I may use the word, agenda of any educational system in any country. Countries want that their citizens, through education, develop a greater attachment to the country, a greater sense of what the country is all about. So now we can begin to see here there is a little bit of tension now that's coming along. This, if we talk about in this country and everywhere, a national curriculum. So how does a national curriculum comes into tension with international curriculum or globalized curriculum? How does so understandably there has to be some kind of a tension. Maybe it's a good tension, it's a healthy tension that kind of takes place. So now the next question is, having said this, situated this particular way of thinking, the next thing is, when we talk of globalized curriculum, what is it that we are talking about? What is it? What is going to be its content? Are we where are we going to start? Are we going to start in high schools or before that, or only in college? And how do we going to teach about other countries? And there are two things I want to mention, which I think are of concern. One is pedagogy of pedagogical values from the East and pedagogical values of the West. This needs to be explored. I find that there is a kind of growing tendency to say that the pedagogy of the West is the best pedagogy. That's the way to teach. Pedagogy of the East or other countries or emerging countries somehow does not get even considered. And I think it is important for us to start looking, even though those are poorer countries, is there anything pedagogical value there? And then the other one is the content. When it comes to content, I think it's going to be a challenge for us because number one, we have a limited time and limited space in our university's curriculum to introduce this dimensions of globalization of curriculum. Number two, I think what we need to start focusing on is the global contexts for people to understand. Not only to look at the tendency sometimes here is that, particularly in the United States, that I'm more familiar with in the last 30 years of being in the education system here, that we tend to look at the world through our American lenses. And we tend to look at the education and educational content through American lenses. And it's understandable why those things happen. But I think an effort needs to be made in trying to get our students to move away from those lenses and begin to help them to see the world from the lenses of the particular place. Of course, it is easier said than done, but nonetheless, that effort has to be made. And there is, for example, now as part of the globalization of curriculum, almost all universities and colleges in the United States are talking about and doing everything possible at great costs financially, global studies. But what happens in global studies? More and more global studies are becoming just, if I may use the term in quotation mark, tourism education. You go there as a kind of a tourist and you see what's happening. And as you come back making those superficial experiences or superficial observations and say, okay, now I have this global understanding of, I have this understanding of the world, what happens? There is no, for example, when our students go overseas to study, very few universities or colleges probably have arrangements where they go and study in the universities of the particular country or in the college of the particular country, sitting amidst the local students and learning from the local professors. Instead, what we do, we export everything. We export our classroom, we export our professors, we export everything, and then we build our campuses there. And that, I don't think it serves any purpose of what I would call globalized curriculum. That is simply remains in the realm of tourism education. And so this is my big concern, that in the name of study abroad, global study abroad, more and more it's become tourism education rather than actual learning within the local context, learning from the local professor, learning amidst the local students, and sitting with them and learning from them, with them, and that kind of common experience. And only then I think we can say that that is how we begin to see this globalized experience, globalization of the curriculum. Now, in our curriculum, we have X number of courses because they have to meet certain content area, and that is understandable. Should there be a separate course added to the curriculum that deals specifically with global issues, or should there be an effort to bring in an international or global issues component in almost every subject that we teach, whether it is science or social sciences or humanities? And I think there is room to bring in these global issues in almost every subject that we teach. And so, of course, understandably, the professor must have that kind of concern to bring these international dimensions. So, I think I would stop here for a moment and see if my colleague Dr. Slama has any questions or any clarifications that she would be interested and I should expand a little bit. Just to, last word I would like to say here is, when we talk of the global curriculum, I think we have to start thinking about human capital and making that as a foundation of our thinking in terms of curriculum. How the human capital across the world, whether rich world, developed world, poorer world, emerging world, there is a human capital everywhere. What can we learn from the human capital? In India, we have an Indian local language that is an interesting word that is being picked up now in some academic circles. And the word is called jugaad. In fact, there was a conference, I think, some time ago at Oxford University on jugaad. What is jugaad? Jugaad is the local innovation. And local innovation is something that I think we have to start focusing on as part of our global curriculum, globalized curriculum. And that is where lies the sustainability goals that we're talking about. Because innovation is coming from far away and being imposed on all these countries. I don't think that is leading to sustainability. Sustainable development goals are, I think, very much connected to this notion of jugaad, that is the Hindustani or Hindi word, that simply means local innovation, how people in the villages innovate, and everybody innovates there. And I think that has to be highlighted as well. And that's how, I think only then we will have two things met. One is moving sustainable development goals and at the same time globalizing the curriculum. Dr. Aslama, do you have any clarifications, questions for me?
I think this was a wonderful commentary which critiqued what we see as globalization, also critiqued, and pretty rightly so, about how global education or global studies is being done at the moment, from a very Western-centric world. And then you provided us with a solution, talking about the global sustainable development goals that are being developed right now by the UN, in collaboration with all its member states, as well as the localized version of that which is Jugad. So we need to have big goals as well as the local concrete implications or innovations. My final question to you would be, of course, the $1,000,000 or probably $1 billion question that everybody's talking about. Given that education is becoming more and more an enterprise everywhere in the world and commercialized, not the least in the US, where the tradition has been so for a very long time, but also elsewhere. And so at the same time, many people claim that MOOCs, the massive online learning platforms and courses, will solve this problem. So how do you see technology, as an expert in communication, how do you see technology changing the global education landscape? Will MOOCs save the world, or will something quite different save the world?
Thank you very much for asking that question. I just finished a MOOC course on the history and the future of education. It was an interesting experience. From what we have been told, I understand in that particular course we had about a few thousand students from across the world. And for me, I did that intentionally just to experience the MOOC experience, and at the same time to learn the history of education and how the future of education vis-a-vis technology is going to evolve. And these are my very personal convictions. I don't think MOOC is going to resolve the problem of education around the world. MOOC is helpful in terms of an ongoing education, but not the kind of qualifications students need. Because education is not just about knowing a particular subject matter. Education is an important time. College experience, school experience, and college experience is an important time in the life of a young man or a woman. In general, of course, there are older people also who go there. But in our society, that age of self-discovery, not only in the classroom, but also outside the classroom, interacting with the other colleagues in person. And that is whole formation is integral part of the education. And I think MOOCs and everything else, online delivery of education, ignores that particular component. Yes, we can build communities online and everything else, but everything has its own limitations. And I'm sure people will argue vociferously on both sides. That is one thought that I have on that. The other concern is technology is wonderful, and I think instead of focusing more on delivery technology, how to deliver education, for the purpose of, if I may use the term, there is tendency to monetize education, and this is what is very, very troubling tendency I find, monetizing education. How to make money out of this, what we call education. That is very troubling, and I think it is self-destructive in the long run and in the short term as well. Now, we have to start using technology in terms of pedagogical component. How we can, if I make a point of term, pedagogize technology. How technology can become an integral part of teaching in the classroom. And that I think all professors must start engaging. And oftentimes for us, it is a challenge because we don't have that natural intuition, sometimes because of our age or whatever it is. But still, that does not forgive us, but we have to make that effort to start introducing technology as a pedagogical tool. And that I think, will help us to engage our students. And because technology is the students' ecology. They live in this ecology. And if we don't pay attention to this important central component of the student psychology, I think we're missing proper way of educating the students. So that is just my little thought in terms of technology. Will the going back to the question of MOOCs, are they helpful? Yes, I think they are helpful. I thought when I took this MOOC course on the history and education of and future of education, it was helpful. It was ongoing general education that I benefited from. But that is not going to replace university experience, university education, college education, systematic education, where people not only learn new things, but also in the process that they discover themselves. And that is a complex process which takes place very well on a campus, in a brick and mortar environment.
Dr. Monteiro, thank you very much. You reminded us how, as in everything, technology can be such a good servant, but not necessarily a sort of the boss or the driving force, that it is a double-edged sword, and we as educators have to be very well aware of its downsides as well as its immense benefits when used properly. I thank you very, very much of your time. I'm sure my colleagues at the UPeace course will greatly enjoy this, our conversation and your insights. And I will definitely use this interview in other contexts as well for my students to understand what global education should be. Thank you, Dr. Monteiro.
Oh, you're welcome very much, and I'm delighted. However, I have to say one word of thank you to my two assistants.
The other one went somewhere. I only see one.
It's in my lap.
Oh, okay.
And these are my cockatiels. One is Enkidu, other one is Grindel.
Very nice. Nice to meet you all three. Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.